Hello YouTube. I've been working on a project for the past couple of days and I just wanted to make a really quick video so that I could show you what I've been up to because I think that it is really cool. But before we do anything here in game, I'm going to need to pull up a Jupyter notebook to help me sort of explain what I've been doing. Okay, so here I have Google Chrome open and I have a Jupyter notebook open. And for those of you who don't know what a Jupyter notebook is, it's basically sort of like this interactive way to write code. But just a little bit of a disclaimer, I did not make this Jupyter notebook. This was actually made by Professor Asa Ben-Hur of Colorado State University. He's actually my professor for my data wrangling class. And he sort of wrote up this top section, which is what I wanted to be talking about. Talking about code on YouTube videos, I think personally is really boring. Um, so I'm just gonna basically be looking at the pictures. Uh, Basically, what this code is doing is it's modeling sand, or rather, sort of sand piles. Um, so what we're sort of doing is we have this grid in 2D that we're dumping sand onto, or rather, we're going to stack sand onto it. And if it's above a certain height, then that sand is going to fall over and fall into tiles adjacent to it. And so you can see here, I've already kind of run it, and what I have here is a graph of what the sand would look like uh, after it's all settled. And basically, what I've done is I put 200 grains of sand in, which is not a lot for this specific notebook, but I'll explain why I did such a low number in just a second. And this is also in a 15 by 15 grid. So it's a fairly small grid, or a small table, if you will. And again, I did that for a reason. Um, Now, some of you might already see where I'm going with this, but basically what I've done is I attempted to, and I think I succeeded in recreating this in Minecraft. So let's hop back in game and take a look at it. Okay, so I'm back here in game, and let's go ahead and take a look at what I've been working on rather, and you can sort of see it over here. Um, and if you remember that picture that we just looked at, or that graph in that Jupyter notebook, it looked a lot like this. And that is actually because, and I'm not going to show it on screen because it takes forever, and I'll explain why in just a second. But that is because I did, in fact, stack 200 blocks of this um, white concrete powder, rather. And I stacked them all in the very center of this grid, and I ran that algorithm. And no, I did not build it by hand. Any of you who have seen command block type of contraptions before have probably seen a lot of these guys. These are armor stands. Armor stands are really easy to work with because they're nice little entities that I can manipulate and move around. And that's exactly what I've done. So this is the end state of 200 blocks of sand. But I'm gonna go ahead. It took about like 45 minutes to run, I think. But I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna reset this whole area. And now you might be able to see why I picked a 15 by 15 grid to run that Jupyter notebook on. And that is because I have a 15 by 15 area here. And basically what I do is I can flip this lever here, and I have these command blocks basically running commands. And this is moving pretty fast, so you may not be able to tell very easily. But this armor stand is basically sort of scanning across the entirety of this area. And what it's going to do is it's going to check each one of these individual spots and see if it's above a max height that I've set for sand to topple over, basically. So I'm going to go ahead and turn that off and reset it again. And I have a thing here to place 200 blocks, but we're just going to start with 16 for now. It's a lot shorter. And I can sort of, it'll be very easy to see what it's doing. So right here, you can see it sort of jumped up there. It was very quick, but basically it found a stack, and I have the height limit set to 4. And this was definitely, 16 is definitely greater than 4. So as soon as it found that stack, it went up there, and it took 4 blocks from off the top and placed them down here in the 4 adjacent squares. So it sort of toppled over. You can see it just did it again. And eventually this will settle, and I can run back into the Jupyter Notebook here at the very end, and we'll be able to check our work. And you can sort of see that now it's really starting to fall over, and I believe it just has one more scan, and then it'll be completely done. Yep, there we go. And just like that, I can go ahead and I can turn this off. Basically, it would just keep going forever if I left it on, and it would never do anything to the sand that's already here, because all of these are below the height limit that I set. And again, if we take a look at this, I started with 16 blocks, and there's 2 here and 2 here, and there's 4 of each one of those. So it looks like there's still a total of 16 blocks here. So I haven't deleted anything. I just basically just moved them. Now, this was an incredibly stupid thing for me to do, considering that I have had no prior experience with any form of command blocks in Minecraft. So it was very, very stupid for me to try to do this, especially since well, I mean, it wouldn't normally be stupid, but it was stupid because I tried to do it in less than a day, because my assignment is due today, and I'm hoping to get this up onto YouTube, so that I can turn it in with the assignment. And I really wanted to get it done, and I pretty much worked on this all day. So there's a couple of things as to why this takes so long, and I want to talk about. This is basically it. There's nothing else special about this, but I kind of wanted to talk about some of the limitations that I met trying to port this over into Minecraft. And to do that, I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna spawn 50 blocks. So it's a 50 block tower directly in the center, and I'm gonna start sweeping while I'm explaining. So one thing is, you'll see it here. There was a long pause in between when it hit the center spire and before it was able to topple all the sand over. That is because I was unsure. I had to make this a general use. I had to make this for general use. So technically, if I wanted to, I could clear this whole thing, and I could put a bunch of white concrete powder out here, and and I can make a bunch of white noise, and it would it would be able to flatten it, or not flatten it, but basically this armor stand would still be able to let it all topple and let it settle. So I needed to make it general use, which means that I wasn't always necessarily sure as to how tall, how much sand was going to be piled up in one spot. So I can go ahead and I can find the specific command block. This here, if not at the top, teleport up by 1 block. Or rather, yeah, there's this one here too. And if I take a look at it, I basically, what these little tildes here are saying is, hey, I'm going to teleport, which was what TP means. I'm going to teleport the armor stand relative to its current position one block in the Y direction. And I personally find this a little bit counterintuitive, but for those of you who aren't really familiar with Minecraft, the Y direction is in fact up and down, or this green column right here. So basically, and if I actually go ahead and get into spectator mode really quick, I can hop inside of this here, and we'll wait for the armor stand, and we can watch it. And we just saw it from inside of the block sort of slide all the way up to the top, because I wasn't since I wasn't sure how tall some of these things were going to be. I basically needed to have it move up 1 block at a time and check to see how tall it is. And this is a huge time waster, because I can only run this stuff so fast. Basically, what I have it going at right now is I'm basically running this whole thing, all these command blocks, in a single tick. And again, for those of you who aren't familiar with this aspect of Minecraft, a single tick is 1/20th of a second, which seems fairly quick, and it is normally for a normal survival Minecraft game or even just creative. But in my case, this is very slow. because there's quite a few rows here. Just, it has to move 15 blocks across each one of these rows, and that's taking a whole 1/20th of a second. So, if I just had 5 more blocks here in my grid, it would be taking an entire second to do an entire row, which is why this thing takes so long. But basically, I'm just having to constantly teleport this guy around. And another issue that I had problems with, and let me see here, we'll probably see this in a second. We'll be able to see this command block right here, and you can see it's sort of pointing in different directions. And what I'm having to do is I'm having to check for different states, and then based off of what the states are, I change the direction that this block is pointing to either continue along in this direction or this direction or this direction. Um, so it's basically like an if-else statement. Um, and I have another one which you can't see that's in the middle of all of these guys. And another one of the big issues that I had was sort of keeping track of information. You can sort of see this origin block, which is at 0, 0, is sort of flipping around to different types of different colored glass when it sort of runs through the mound of this sand, if you will. And that is because I'm sort of storing information by changing which block is here. And I believe, yes, it looks like the 50 blocks have settled now. So we'll go ahead, we'll check that at the very end as well. But basically, every time I wanted to do something and I found something out, or I learned about maybe the height of a certain column, I had to change what block this was so that I could run a different section of these command blocks. Because it was very important to me that I could just flip a single switch and have the whole thing turn on. So again, this is extremely impractical. But just when I was running through that assignment, all I could think about was, man, this, what if I made this in Minecraft? What if I had what if sand actually physically toppled in Minecraft instead of just stacking up one on top of the other? But anyways, this video is getting kind of long, so I want to wrap it up. I'm going to go ahead and take a good look at this guy right here, and at the very end, I'm going to go back into the notebook, and we'll go ahead and we'll check our work just really quickly. Okay, so we're back in the notebook right now, and again, I have the size set to 15, which is exactly what we had. And once again, this is what the 200 version looks like, with using 200 grains of sand starting in the center, which is exactly what we got. And let's go ahead and check the 16, because that's going to run pretty quickly. And that looks pretty much exactly like what we got before. And so then I can go ahead and run the 50 really quick. And that looks exactly like what we had. So I personally would call this little project of mine a success, although I probably spent way too much time on it, a lot more time than I really should have. But it was fun nonetheless, and it was very insightful because now I think I have personally, I think I have a little bit of a better understanding as to how this code works and sort of what it's modeling. So yeah, but that's all I have for today. Thank you so much for watching, and adios.